Yatadabbaru with the dabara meaning. I'm sure everyone here knows or should know what the meaning for striking something is. What are the three letters for that? To strike or to
Da,
hit.
Do,
Dara.
Mm,
God,
hmm
there, and raw.
hmm
Oh,
Is he correct?
Daraba.
No,
There you
Daraba.
go. Thank you, Wally.
Do. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting them mixed up.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Daraba, right? Daraba means to strike. Now, to show you how sophisticated English has gotten in its borrowings from the Arabic language, a couple of people mentioned the word ponder, right? Ponder. When we were talking about yatadabbaru, it means to think deeply or to ponder. But the English word ponder is also related to the English word pound, and to pound is to hit. Everybody catch that? So they have done their own deep dive investigation into the English language because of its connections to the Arabic language, more specifically the Quranic Arabic language, which they know is full of jewels like that, full of jewels like that. But they don't teach that to us. So we are in the business of discovering it for ourselves with the help of Allah. That's the beautiful thing about what we're involved in here. You need to appreciate this on that level. So you'll have connected meanings between the English and the Arabic because of deep diving investigators who are in the history of this language, but who don't share that through Lane's lexicon. You understand? They don't share that through, you know, Islamicity, you know, .org. That's not, they're not allowed to do that. Just like the Masons and the Shriners, they're not allowed to teach that knowledge to you and me. You don't think the Muslims have their Masons and Shriners?
Hmm.
That's where the Masons and Shriners got it from. You see, you see I mean, look at the Shriners hat. It's full of Masonic and Islamic symbols. They stole it from the Quran, so to speak. You really can't steal anything from the Quran. But they did their best to borrow it from the Quran and clean up their tracks after so you couldn't. They have fezzes that say Mecca and Medina on the fez. So don't be fooled by that and don't think that they have the superior know-how and the
And
superior
so
understanding. Yes, Ahmed.
seems like the 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 uh the description in the Quran or in scripture about I'm better than them. This entity, this mentality that says I'm better than them. It looked like this has been a part of the human being. I don't care what time and period of history we're talking about.
That's exactly what it is. You're hitting it. You're hitting the very, probably the best verb, the best idea. Pardon me. That's speaking to that idea. I am better than him. Yeah, that's in the back of it. See, it's not. These are not expressions that people are putting in the front of their mind or things that they want you to hear them saying. Allah is revealing their thoughts.
Mhm.
I am
Uh,
better than he. They'll on the surface they'll come up with some other reason why they hate you or why they enslave you or why they don't, are abusing the women. Consciously, they're making up all kinds of lies as to justify what it is they're doing. But Allah is doing a deep dive into their subconscious mind. All right. So I'm sorry, there were a few people ahead of Ahmed that I should have called, but let's go to the lineup now. Who else is there?
Amina is next. And then Muhammad, he did it last minute, but I'll let you rock after Amina, Muhammad, and then we have to move on.
Yes.
okay. Assalamu alaikum. This is just an observation, and you can correct me, instructor, if I'm everywhere in my thoughts. But in looking at the Arabic, I'm reflecting on the notes from last week when you spoke about the action being first in just birth itself. and then the action modifies itself, meaning the adjective comes, and then it's the noun. So when we're looking at the Arabic, are we, once we know what the verb is, then we can, begin to proceed with the next, level of our learning. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Once we know what
generally
the verb
speaking.
is.
Generally speaking, because right now we're
Okay.
thinking very simple. We're thinking verb means action. When you start getting into the attributes, you're going to see that that changes.
Mm.
That's why we have modifiers. That's why we
Okay.
have descriptive words to add to what it is the thing is doing.
Mhm.
A refrigerator refrigerates, right? Every
Yeah.
noun does something. So the verb comes first. In that regard, the verb is coming first, but the refrigerator is not only refrigerating.
Mhm.
It's
Okay. It's vice
storing,
versa.
it's preserving, it's doing a whole lot of other
Mhm.
things that are the attributes of that noun that is
Okay.
doing things. But if it's not doing anything, it's not even here. It's dead.
Yeah.
Every noun, when a baby is born, as I mentioned last week, when a baby is born, the mother, the baby doesn't know that's mother by that idea. The baby knows her actions. She's the one who
Mhm.
usually feeds me. She puts clothes on me. She shelters me. She keeps me warm. She soothes me. The baby knows the mother by verbs, by actions, not by mother, hair
Mhm.
color, size of her eyes. You can't describe. You can't bring her into. You know,
Yeah.
the baby can't describe her like you do in a police lineup. What does she
Mhm.
look like? Can't have the guy drawing a picture of his mother who refused to feed him. What does she look like? Baby, what do you mean, what does she look like? She looks something like you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, the verb, the action, and then there's a multitude of actions. That's what
Mm.
makes this so beautiful. You'll never get finished studying NuNetics.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the better part is there's a multitude of actions that have nothing to do with what people did or created.
Mm.
Has nothing to do with
Mhm.
Bill Gates and nothing to do with, whatever, whoever just got shot and killed. There's nothing to do with that world. This is
Mhm.
outside of that world. And this will continue whether the world continues or not. If the world stops functioning, then Allah say he bringing something else to replace it. So there's always going to be actions.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in my mind. I'm just thinking something that I wrote, because I write for it from years ago. Not human, you're human, but if you're not doing anything, you're just being
That's
like
right.
a human, but not you're just being. So thank you.
Well,
That's all.
let me give you
Okay.
let me give you just a little hint on a little tip on that. You're
Okay.
actually a human doing first, then you become a human being. Allah says, kun fayakun, be, and it becomes. Becoming is your ultimate self.
Mhm.
That's your arrival point. When you arrive at being a true human being, you're cosmic at that point. I know that's a
Mhm.
strange term for some people, but you're born as a human doing. You're born doing things, but it doesn't mean you understand what you're doing. It doesn't mean you can benefit from what you're doing. Okay. But we don't want to
Mhm.
insult people and say you're just a worker. You're a human
Yeah.
doing. But that's what most people on earth are. They're just born as workers. And then people take advantage of your work and your skill and all that. And they use you to make all the money. And they throw you away as a human doing. You're just doing things till you go to your grave.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
you need to work on being human.
Yeah.
All right, I'm through.
Thank you. That was
You're welcome.
great.
You're welcome.
Jotted that down.
And you put your hand down, Muhammad Abdullah. Oh, you want our
Oh,
camera to question?
I wanted to ask you, Nawa, if you could clarify that term, affix, the affix. You mentioned the prefix, the suffix. Explain the affix.
Oh, like what the affixes are. Okay. I'm gonna give it to Instructor Bilal.
No problem.
Okay,
I can do that in 10 seconds.
surely. Okay.
Affix is the word that's used to cover the prefix, the infix, and the suffix. All together, they're called affixes.
Okay.
because they are fixed to the word.
Okay. And so the
See,
affix.
when they talk about the crucifix of Jesus and they call Jesus the word, that's just speaking above your head. That's them speaking above your head. They know that the crucifixion of Jesus is the crucifixion of language. Truth is language,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the crucifixion of Jesus. They
Yeah.
buried him. That's the burying of real meanings in language. But there's going to be a resurrection. A res-erection is what they know it means because something is going to come back to give it true life again. That's what an erection does. They don't want to talk to you like that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. That makes it clear. So the affixes also will lead to effects and effects
Sure.
in the language
Sure.
in terms of their frequencies and vibrations.
That's right. He said he created you from an alaq, an attaching thing. That's what a fix is. The alaq. It's all saying the same thing in different ways. That's what makes the Quran so grand and expressive. Allah can say things in 100 different ways, and he's saying basically the same thing. When he calls you an affix, he's calling you what Star Trek calls a Klingon.
Yes.
You can't escape the language. We
Yes.
are all aren't we Klingons when we get here? We cling into our mother's breast first. When we
Mhm.
finally learn to walk a little bit, then we're clinging to her hand when we go walking with her. She's got to hold us up, right? Then when you get a
Mhm.
little older, and you start going to school, and then you're clinging. Why are you all over? Well, move. Let me breathe. So this is all an alaka is. That's not all it is, but that's basically what an alaka is. Allah's telling you about your growth, but He's giving it to you in words that once you understand the attributes of it, you have 1,000 words to mean what that means. So Allah didn't have to
Mhm.
put every single thing in the Quran. It'd be
Yeah.
impossible for you to carry it.
Yeah.
Now what?
Clear, clear instructor. Clear.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
That's not
Um,
me. That's the Quran that's clear like that.
mhm.
Thank you for that.
Last question for
Well,
Shasia. I don't know if she's still on here. That's our new student. She asked, Ba Ra with Dumma means question mark.
Bara with Duma, I'm assuming that she means Duma over the Ra.
I'm
Baru.
assuming.
Yeah, because that's the word we were dealing with. It just means plural. That's all. It's talking to a group.
Understood. Okay, so hopefully I answered her question. Okay, we are ready to allow instructor to guide us in today's about righteousness. So
Yes.
if this was all happenstance, that Dabaru was the term.
Yeah. And I apologize for any of us going overtime. I know that at least one person is from Pakistan, and we started at 10 p.m. her time. So I'm not going to go much further than that, or she can get whatever she might miss in the replay. Depends on what time is Betty by time for her. But thank you. Um, and I think everybody else is good to go. So just stand by. Let me get my notes. Right. So I'm going to ask that no one ask any questions right now. I'm recording it in a way where I can transcribe it freely without having to edit out a whole lot of stuff. Okay. And then I'll open up for just a couple of minutes in case you have any necessary questions after this. What I'd rather you do is go home, or not go home, but be home and listen to the replay first before you ask a whole lot of questions that might not be part of what I'm addressing. All right. I want you to become more disciplined and more skilled at proper study habits. We don't just want to study, we want the study to become habits, things that we do so often that it becomes just a natural part of our being, as we said earlier. All right. So stand by. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin with the source creator being invited in for quality control over this conversation. We begin with the identity of Allah. And the identity of Allah means that we should be able to identify him when we discuss him or when we describe him. And the more we learn to describe Allah through the attributes that he has given to us in the Quran, the more you're going to realize that you are more like Allah than unlike Allah. Strange kind of statement, but you'll understand it eventually. When you learn to turn those attributes on in your life, is when you're going to take on a whole new growth. It won't just be a spurt. It's going to be a serious evolution. When you're able to take those attributes, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, El-Qudus, all of them, however many you think there are more than 99, but however many you think there are, when you're able to take them and inculcate them into your being, not just your doing, then you're going to realize that you are closer. I'll give it to you in Allah's words, that he is as close to you as your jugular vein and even closer. We think about Allah, we always think about some distant entity when you should be thinking about a being, if I can use that expression, that is always with you. He's never distant. You don't ever have to call him, so to speak. You don't have to, get his attention first through what they call prayer. You don't have to holler. You don't have to raise your voice like some people do in religion. They have screaming fest on Sunday or whatever day they meet for church or whatever. And they think that the louder their voice is, the better God is going to hear them. And that's not how that goes. Allah is always with you as a frequency that allows you to do things. Allah allows. That's where they got the word allow. All right. Allah allows. The only thing is that he allows you to do practically anything that your mind can conceive, that your imagination can ponder, anything. He allows you to do it, but not without consequences. If it's the wrong thing to do, you can do whatever you want. Some public figure just got shot 2 weeks ago or whenever it was. He allowed him to do that. But there are consequences for that. When you follow what's called the righteous thing to do, then your consequences will be the result of righteous actions, righteous speeches, righteous interactions with people, family members, community members, governmental figures, religious figures. When you interact with them on a level of righteousness, then the results will be righteous. So that's our subject for today. What is righteousness? And I've subtitled this short lecture, Protecting the Innocent. So from the Etymology Online Dictionary, it gives us the meaning of the word righteousness as character of being righteous, purity of heart, and rectitude of life. If we didn't say any more, we've said enough. It has to do with being and doing right, conformity in character and conduct to a right standard or standard. And that's all we'll need from that meaning. When we talk about the word innocent, it means doing no evil, to be free from sin and guilt or moral wrong. Harmless, not guilty, pure. Blameless, harmless, disinterested. From in as a prefix, which means not in this instance, and from no sentem, no sentem, no sense. English is a very funny language, but no sense. And ultimately, from knock, and they allow you to know that the K and the S are interchangeable. And it's the suffixed form of the Proto-Indo-European root nek, N-E-K, which means death. So let's start from the end, death. The neck, N-E-C-K, is the main point in a live body that, when injured, can result in death. A necromantic is one who is in love with dead things. Here you see the picture or the image of a neck, and it has all of these vital points connected to it. It's one of the easiest parts of the body to injure. Even sometimes when we get a sore throat, it really bothers us. When we start coughing, holding our throat, popping lozenges, cough drops. So it's a thing that we don't necessarily think about during the average day. But when there's an injury to the throat, then it's a cause of concern. The etymology dictionary also says that that prefix nek, it might also be the source of the Sanskrit word nasyati, which means disappears or perishes. And it's from some other words from some other languages that lead to a word of interest called a nasu. That should sound familiar to any Quranic reader. Nasu. But here, it means corpse. In the Quran, it means people. Allah, all of the way through the Quran, is pulling the sheets off of their faces. The Quran is not here just to address the Arabic language. The Quran is addressing all languages through Arabic. If you don't know Arabic, you can't read the Quran. You're wrong. All you have to know is the fitrah. All you have to know is what that letter means in Allah's fitrah. And you are therefore reading Arabic, but that takes an intensive study. But in the case of these connections here, Nasu means corpse. In the old Persian language, Vinathayati means he injures. And that's also related to the Greek nekros, which means corpse. Latin, it's nex. Goes on to mean words that are connected to ideas of violence and death and murder. Doesn't that sound like our nation? To harm, to hurt, noxious, harmful, dead, necros, dead, body, corpse. And then finally, the word Negro. They didn't tell you that here, but it's in a different part of the dictionary where you might not be as suspicious of how they name people after their motivations. So the word Negro means dead. When they called certain people Negroes, they were saying these are people who are dead, not physically, as a purpose. We're not going to let them control their own purpose on earth. We are going to repurpose them for our pleasures and for our advancement. We live in a death culture. The American culture is literally and figuratively a culture of death. Even one of the popes called it that. He said that the Western world is a culture of death. That should make you wonder. In Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, Ayat 177, Allah says, as we translate into English, it is not righteousness that you turn your faces towards east or west, but it is righteousness to believe in Allah and the last day and the angels and the book and the messengers, to spend of your substance out of love for him, for your kin, for orphans, for the needy, for the wayfarer, for those who ask, and for the ransom of slaves, to be steadfast in prayer and practice regular charity, to fulfill. One moment. Yes, to fulfill the contracts which you have made, and to be firm and patient in pain or suffering and adversity, and throughout all periods of money. That's my favorite part of this ayah. And through all to be what? Firm, resolute, and patient in pain or suffering and adversity, and throughout all periods of panic. Such are the people of truth, the Allah fearing. وَأُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. And it's the muttaqun aspect of this ayah that we're going to pay some attention to. The word for righteousness in the Quran is al-bir. So it literally means the righteousness. Al-bir. We were speaking earlier about the connections between the letters B and R, or Bait and Ra. So here's a perfect example of how they're being used. And they're translating this word, or these words, this word, as righteousness, doing of good, the doing of righteousness. In English, we have a word, beer. We have several words that are pronounced the same way, beer. One is B-I-E-R, I believe, and that's a dead body in a coffin. We need you to help carry the beer. We have another word, beer, spelled B-E-E-R, and that's a drink made of barley, and hops that can get you intoxicated until you fall out unconscious, just like a dead body, from drinking too much alcohol, drinking too much beer, and then you have to be carried off like the B-I-E-R. These concepts are interrelated, is what I'm trying to get you to see. The more your brain, which is also a BR connection, is able to figure out and even reconfigure things to the point where you're able to make solid connections in language, in words, in letters, the more expansive your consciousness is going to become. The more your consciousness begins to expand, the higher your development will eventually become in your understanding of Quranic logic. We are growing in our consciousness of what Allah is asking of us, or we would even say commanding of us. This word taqwa is a word that's thrown around pretty regularly by Muslims in their lectures. And they just think it means being good. That's why they translate this as righteousness. They just think it, being right, doing the right thing, as the movie said, do the right thing, Spike Lee, do the right thing. But that is not all that al-bir is representing. And as a subtext in this conversation related to righteousness, that is not all that taqwa is. Taqwa has to do with being conscious. Taqwa also has to do with being cautious. Being conscious is a part of being a thinker. There are many people who are walking around in the world right now who are not, who are not conscious. They are alive, but they are not conscious. They are even aware, but they are not conscious as thinkers. Awareness is simply the first level of cognition. It's the first thing that a newborn infant comes into in his or her effort to begin deciphering, figuring out, understanding the world that it has been born into. The first thing is that it first has to come into awareness way before it becomes conscious. We are not born as conscious beings. We are born as beings that are aware because of activities, those actions, those verbs we talked about earlier, being all around us when we're born. Who is this? What is that? Why is she touching me with the other thing? See, checking your heartbeat, and all of that. Looking at the size of your cranium, wrapping everything is happening to us as soon as we're born. So the baby becomes aware, although the baby is not yet conscious. Our meaning for conscious is what the word suggests. Con, that means with, W-I-T-H. And chis means choice. So consciousness is something that does not happen until you are presented with choices to make. And it's the ability to distinguish choices that brings you into consciousness. In order to make conscious choices, you have to also now be aware of the value of what you are choosing over what you're choosing not to choose. In the Matrix, they gave Neo a choice, the red pill or the blue pill. He had to make those choices, at least that choice, based on what he believed was the better of the two. Whenever you're choosing between two things that you're looking for some good to come out of or some benefit to come out of, that's called a moral choice. And morals are different all over the world. Morals do not come with Earth's existence. It doesn't come just because you're born as a human. Morals. Morals differ in the same way that water all over the world differs. And water is a symbol of morality. So there are some areas of the world where the water is salty and you can't drink it. Other parts of the world where the water is too polluted, it's too muddy. The swamps in those areas of the world where you can't use it for what you normally use water for, to bathe, to cook with, and you can't use certain waters on this planet for the things that you would consider to be normally useful for water. So conscious choices are supposed to be choices that end up at the end of the day being beneficial for you. You're supposed to be able to derive some benefit, and at the same time, you're supposed to be able to sidestep any non-beneficial applications or implications for the thing that you're involved in. So if I know that I'm going to be involved in something that may cause me to be arrested and locked up for life, I'm going to avoid that as a choice. If I know that I'm going to fool around with my wife and become, somebody's going to figure it out eventually. That's the choice I made. So choices have consequences, but you're still allowed to make them. And it's the prompting in your brain. Allah put a natural detector for what is decent in you as a human being. He put just a natural proclivity for knowing inside what's decent. Nobody taught that to you in school. Your mama didn't even give that to you. It's a natural part of your human existence that's clocked into your genetics. So it's not your mother or father that's responsible for your righteousness or for your goodness. It's a natural attitude that comes with this flesh and blood, that comes with this nervous system, especially. It's really your nervous system, your primary nervous system, your central nervous system, that's determining for you what is right and proper for you and what is off limits for you. Because Allah created your nerves in a way where they kind of quake when they're in the presence of something that's not right. When you see something going on that, I'm not getting involved in that. Your mother didn't teach you, like, she didn't have to tell you that. You hear clamor and you see noise and you see people fighting and people screaming. Your mother didn't have to teach you not to go in that direction. Your nature knew because Allah clocked it into your nature. Therefore, He clocked righteousness and bir into your very soul, actually. So no human gets the credit for you being righteous. It's not your pastor. I don't care how many churches you've been to. I don't care who you think is the best preacher. None of them get the credit that should be going to Allah for clocking into you this sense of do good, be right, go for the better choices. Nobody clocked that into you. Allah clocked that into you. The creator, the source creator clocked that into you. And when we respond to this inclination in the soul, that's really where it's coming from. And when we say soul, that word is consonantally connected to the word that we have in biology called cell. Your cell represents your first soul. And all of the combination of factors that go into the making of a cell also figuratively go into the creation of your soul. So let's look at what the cell does. We're talking about righteousness. What is righteousness? The human cell naturally knows what to gravitate towards as well as what to stay away from. It's clocked into the biology of the cell. So there are certain things that your cell is going to go towards as an action, because it knows natively, it knows innately that that thing is good for my growth and development, that that thing is good for my protection in this environment. Your cells already know. And they got a whole host of soldier cells, white blood cells that are waiting for something to go wrong so they can go over there and deal with it, attack it if necessary, get rid of it, kick it out of the place, clean it up afterwards, and possibly die trying to do it. Your white blood cells, they will sacrifice themselves. Sound familiar? To make sure that the overall health of the body remains intact. That's your cell, but that's also your soul. Exactly operating in the same fashion. That spiritual quality in you that knows right from wrong, that wants to be on the side of what is right and in opposition to things that are wrong. That's you innately. You can override that program. That's a program in you that can be overridden if you come with the wrong intent. You can override righteousness. You can override the tendency in you to want to do right and want to be right. But it takes a long period of time of repetitive actions surrounding the acceptance of what you knew in the beginning was wrong. You knew it from the beginning. You knew being with that little girl, you just 10 years old and you in the room with the door closed, doing whatever you're doing. We used to call it necking. Isn't that interesting? We're in the room necking with another 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, opposite sex, hopefully, person. And we knew it was wrong. You say, well, he was just 9 years old. How did he know it was wrong? Well, why did he close the door? When you went in the room to play with your Nintendo, you didn't close the door. When you went inside to eat your lunch with your best friend at the school, it's from school, you didn't close the door. But as soon as you went in that room with that girl, little boy, you thought to close the door because your nature knew that that could lead to something that was not supposed to be happening as an action. So this taqwa quality is a quality that rises up with us to put a check on those things that we know would possibly lead us in the wrong direction of what is best for us. And that means that the taqwa itself is clocked into the cell. This word taqwa, T-A-Q-W-A, is from the word waqi, W-A-Q-I-H. No, pardon me, W-A-Q-I-Y. Yes, taqi. And no, pardon me, I'm wrong. Waqi, yes, now it's correct. W-A-Q-I-Y. Waqi. So we were talking earlier about suffixes and infixes and prefixes and all of those affixes. Obviously, when you understand what I just said, you'll know that the T in taqwa is a prefix. It's not a part of the root letters. And taqwa, if you understand the T as we teach it in NuNetics, represents a two-way relationship or a two-way street. The T, the ta, a two-way street called reciprocal. It means that the party number one is getting something from this, but also the party number two is getting something from this reciprocally, meaning it's not always the same thing that you're getting as a benefit, but it's an equal benefit that is giving you what you need, not necessarily what was given to the person who gave. If I'm in the store and I'm making a purchase, I get the product that I'm buying, but you're getting my money. Those are two different things, but we're getting what it is we need. That's called a reciprocity. It's a reciprocal relationship. So that's what all words in the Quran that begin with the ta as a prefix, that's what they indicate. If you're sitting in the masjid attending what's called a ta'aleem with that same ta, it means that I'm getting something from being here, and the person who's delivering the lecture or the teaching session is getting something also, but he's not getting what I'm getting. I already know the information. I'm teaching it to you. But you're getting the learning experience. You're getting the increase in knowledge. Two different things, but reciprocal benefit. So taqwa is being dutiful, meaning responsible, and consciously regardful. What does that mean? You can be unconsciously regardful. If you see a person coming at you and they're about to make a mistake in woodshop class or whatever, and you see them with a hammer and they're talking and eating and all that, and they're not looking at what they're doing, and your hand is in the way of them just pounding on the desk with the hammer, you're going to automatically, instinctively move your hand if you see it coming. If you can get away with it because you saw it in time. So how does taqwa factor into this? Taqwa is when you see it coming and you can calculate how long it's going to be before that hammer gets to my hand. And you are going to actively work to avoid your fingers being crushed by this hammer. That's taqwa. It's called caution in the intellect. This is a property not of the unconscious mind. This is a property not of the conscious mind. Pardon me, not of the subconscious mind. This is a property of the conscious mind, taqwa. So when it's described as consciousness, we're saying that your conscious brain, your neocortex brain is involved in it. It is what is making the choices of what to do, what not to do. And if your conscious brain is not involved in it, then it's not true taqwa. If it's just your emotional self making the choice without having investigated whether this is indeed a good thing for you to do or a beneficial thing for you, and you're just, I don't like her, so I'm not going to work with her. That's an emotional choice, but not working with her is not taqwa. It has nothing to do with the property of taqwa in you making decisions. So what taqwa is actually doing in the long run is protecting anything that is innocent, including people. You don't do wrong things to people because those people are innocent. That's the reason you don't do wrong to your neighbor. That's the reason you don't steal from the grocery store. That's the reason you don't cheat on your wife or your husband. That's the reason you don't abuse your children. Because innately, within the core of your very cells, you know that that's incorrect to do. That's a wrong thing to do. It's built into your cellular structure. When bad things are coming towards your cells in your body, the cells have an outer layer of protection that envelops the cell. It's called a membrane. A membrane. And that membrane closes in around the cell so that things that can be harmful to the cell cannot get in. You can knock all you want, but you will not get in unless your force is powerful enough to penetrate this membrane. I know this is a little deep for some people, but aren't you tired of just wading in the water? Isn't it time you learn to swim? So this is what we're dealing with. The membrane is the protection for the cell. Every single one of your cells is surrounded by a cell membrane that protects it. It's a sheath. It's a surrounding. It's a security guard in some senses. And it protects the cell from outside intruders and outside influences. But if you knock on the door of that cell long enough and hard enough, you weaken the cell, you weaken the membrane. And with that action, eventually, whatever that harmful thing is will begin to make its way into the center of the cell. When that kind of invasion happens, the body is in trouble. That's how all of these diseases arrive on our doorstep or at our doorstep, because the rapidity, the repetition of that bad thing trying to get in just keeps knocking. Now, when that knock is happening on the cells, your natural defenses come online. Your natural defenses are what are called first of all, they are products of your instincts. You should know that first. And they are becoming defended by another natural process that happens in the body. It's one of the systems that Allah created to operate in the body. It controls and regulates all of the other systems. And it operates on the unconscious level. The unconscious level. It happens without you having to think about it. And when it sees an intruder, it automatically goes into stealth mode, seeking out the wrong that is trying to be perpetrated upon it by an outside intruder. And it's designed to protect you, to protect your biology, to protect your life, to protect your living circumstances from this outside invader or these outside invaders. But when you have a force working on your cells that are constantly trying to invade, then the ability to defend yourself becomes weaker and weaker. In fact, it has to borrow strength and power and force from that normally regulating part of your system. It has to borrow from there in order to hopefully have enough time to defend you and then go back to its normal job of regulating your system. This is what is happening in your body system. And I'm trying to describe it in as few words and as simple words as possible. When it borrows, and I'll give you a good for instance, before telling you the name of this system, you probably already know. It has to borrow from other regulators that are overseeing the body and its functionality. It has to come to the rescue of the cells that are being invaded. In doing so, it's pulling away strength from that particular system. If you didn't know by now, it's called the immune system. It has to pull away from the immune system that's protecting your entire existence. Your immune system is actually 80 something percent of your body system. And your immune system is concentrated mostly in the stomach area, the midsection area. So it's participating in the regulation of your foods, digestion, all of these things that are happening automatically. Rest and digest. The digest part is happening without your conscious participation. You do not have to tell the food after you take a bite of it where to go. You do not have to tell the food after you take a bite of it where each vitamin that's in the food should go. You go to the bone system. You stay in the blood system. Oh, I need you in the eyes. I need you to regulate the vision and to increase the strength of the vision. I need vitamin A over here, vitamin B over there, vitamin D over there. No, once you eat that food, then natural circumstances that Allah created to regulate your life kick in. But when something is trying to interfere with the growth of that body, then those major regulators in your immune system have to go to the area where the violation is taking place and lend their assistance to that particular area. But in doing so, it's pulling away strength from the immune system. That has to cease and desist momentarily while I go deal with this emergency. It's like anything else. An emergency happens in the city, the police department, the fire department, these other departments have to be put on hold for a minute so that they can attend the bigger concern. Because if they get into my cell, my whole body will suffer. If they get into that department store that's being invaded, the whole city won't suffer from one department store being broken into, but my whole body will suffer from my cells not being able to cooperate with each other or assist each other. I believe that's sufficient as an understanding. So let us conclude with this part. Reiterating, your cell operates on the same premises as your soul. When your soul becomes bombarded with extraneous actions from things that don't necessarily belong there, ideas that are put into your head that come from extraneous places that don't necessarily belong in your life, influences coming across the television, coming through the music, coming through the chit chat about nothing really. In the Quran, Allah mentions that we shouldn't even be involved in conversations that go nowhere. It's in the Surah on the believers. These are conversations. This is Allah calls it idle talk. We shouldn't even be involved in idle talk, just talking for talk's sake. Do you know what will happen to us as righteous participants in this journey called life if we would consciously decide to not speak unless it's going to be fruitful and productive, either for me or for the person I'm talking to, or for both parties involved? If I say I'm not even going to say a word unless I'm concentrating consciously on saying only that which will be of benefit to my mother as I speak to her, to my younger siblings as I speak to them, to my father who I've been having issues with, but I won't say a word unless I have consciously stopped and thought about whether this is going to be harmful or hurtful or helpful to these parties. So I have to put my own selfish, egotistical parts of the brain, I have to put that on hold in order to address the bigger concern. So righteousness is in what I'm about to explain to you from the Quran. And we'll be through once I do that. Give me just one moment. Here it goes. Thank you for being patient. And what I'm about to read is from a book that was produced based on words from Imam W. Dean Muhammad, and it's called After Difficulty on Pain and Suffering. I'm not saying this to promote the book necessarily. I'm saying this to promote this idea that we were just discussing related to what is righteousness. So listen very carefully. This is on page 16, and it's under the heading of protecting the innocent. In defining righteousness in the Quran, God says in chapter 2, quote, "It is not righteousness, al-bir, it is not righteousness that you turn your faces east or west, but it is righteousness to believe in God and the last day and the angels and the books and the messengers, to spend out of your substance out of love for him, out of love for God." You see how close we are to Christians and other people of faith? The love of God is above all love for your kin or on your kin, for orphans, for the needy, for the wayfarer, meaning the homeless, the persons who are out of doors. They are people of the road, webnas sabili, people of the road. But the term that's used is not Sharia, which is the common name for road. That tells us that it is not only for the person who is physically out of doors, who is physically without a home or a place to stay, but it is also for the person who is mentally out of doors and mentally without a home in which he can live and have peace, protection, security, privacy, and production. So it is the mentally out of doors, the mentally homeless. When they brought African Americans from Africa, made us slaves here, and cut us off from our past, they made all of us people mentally homeless, mentally out of doors. God goes on to say in the Quran, quote, "For those who ask and for those who do not ask," end quote. Like the ones we meet all the time in the community and out in the street. And we say, "Can you spare car fare? Or can you give me some money for the bus? Can you help me with some food?" You say, "Well, he wants a drink." You should not come to that conclusion. If you really think he is going to do that, give him some help if you can afford it, and then tell him, be good to yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Do not deny him help. And the best reason is because Allah says, help him. You have to learn to override that ego portion of your mind that is saying he's going to do so. How do you know you don't know what he's going to do with it? You're a mind reader now? No, this is part and parcel of obeying the laws, the edicts, and the commandments of Allah. To feed the homeless, that's one of Allah's commands on you. So help him with the money and also help him with advice. Give him good advice. Pull him back from the wrong. But when you turn him down, give him no money, and walk away cold, you didn't even register his problem. You make him a worse drunk. You are contributing to his problem rather than helping him solve it. Maybe that's why he is out there, because people are cold and insensitive. So I'm going to stop with the reading there just for the sake of time and let you know that all of the guidance that is given in Surah 2, Ayat 177 is given in a way where any and every human being can benefit. The advice in the Quran is not secular. It's not school of thoughtish. It has nothing to do with you being a Wahhabi or Sunni or Shiite or anything like that. It has to do with you attempting to live your true human life in peace and with progress. So that is the level of guidance that the Quran represents. It's not partial. Like I said, if you chose to, go up on a tall building and haul yourself off, Allah is impartial. Nature will allow to happen what happens when things toss themselves off with no recourse and with no forethought and you're just on a suicidal mission. You're going to get what suicidal missions call for. That's nature. What Allah has brought us into with the Quran is nurture. Everything in creation is experiencing nature. Everything in the cosmos is nature, but not everything in the cosmos is experiencing the gift of nurture. Nurture is only happening when living things become assisted by Allah and what Allah allows. But your brain has to learn how to choose the best over the worthless, the best over the worst. That's an internal property. And you're not going to find that property in a way that it will assist you if you are not consciously paying attention to it. Hence, the reason for taqwa. It's not your mama protecting you this time. It's not your daddy and his big muscles protecting you this time. The thing that is giving you advice as to what to do and what not to do is actually part and parcel of your nature. And it's the nature that is now calling on being nurtured, meaning there's a growth potential that you're paying attention to. Finally, the word taqwa, as I said earlier, is related to the word waqi, and waqi is related to a word in Arabic that represents a saddle, saddle, a saddle. And we know that a saddle and its purpose, first and foremost, is to protect you when riding horses. It's a protection. This is how the ancient Arabs understood the word taqwa before the Quran introduced the greater meaning. It was to protect you. Mostly men, because mostly men all over the world were the ones riding horses. But what becomes difficult for a man, especially when riding a horse, is the protection of what are called his gonads. Yes, the protection of the part of the body that's responsible for his reproduction into the future. So they are, by wearing a saddle, protecting their investment in the future when it comes to having more children and that kind of thing. Because if you mess up the gonads, you've messed up your future, biologically speaking. So taqwa was the action of guarding that. That's why they say taqwa means to guard, to be cautious. So translate that from the physical reality of it, protecting your physical testicles in this case, to protecting anything that represents the advancement of your life into the future. If you're involved in an activity that is curtailing that ability to march into the future free and whole and sound and peacefully, if you're interfering with that in any way, you are violating taqwa. I hope that's understood. So the righteousness that we're talking about is part and parcel of this taqwa capability. And this was created for us when Allah created the cells. The cells are practicing taqwa when they guard themselves against any offensive intruders. They're practicing taqwa. So you have a living example in your biology of what Allah means when He says ittaqullah, to have taqwa for Allah and for the wombs that bore you. Ittaqullah war arham, because that's where taqwa first develops, in the wombs, in your cellular structure. So that becomes your classroom. So with that said, I'm going to close out for today. Open up for maybe just a couple of questions. I believe Karima had her hand raised. And then we'll close out this session for the day. I thank you all for being as patient as you have been. I hope that what I have said is clear and concise. And when you get the replay, I'm going to be asking for some papers to be developed, some scholarly papers to be developed. I'm sure Nawa's going to go to work on this. She was working on it while I was talking. So this is what we're going to want to see from this class from this point forward. For anyone who is new, you got a little grace period, but I don't think you need one. I don't think you're going to need a grace period in order to explain back to Instructor Bilal what he's been explaining to you during this class. So are there any quick questions that we need to entertain? If so, raise your hand in the computer. Okay. Nawa, can you catch those?
Yeah, it starts with Karima, and then my hand is raised, but it was on behalf of Kay, so I'm going to take mine
Okay.
down.
All
And then
right.
Abdullah.
Okay, in that order,
My
let's go.
question was, you was reading from the name of the book?
Yes, the name of the book, again, is After Difficulty, Insights of W. Dean Muhammad on Pain and Suffering, if you
I
can see
got it.
that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And you can order that. Well, get in touch with
I
me. I'll
have
put
it.
the information. Oh, you do? Okay. Well, for
Yes.
those who might not and who still might want to get the book, it's being published and edited by Ronald B. Shaheed. And I will give you ordering information when I send out the replay of this recording. Thank you. Next person. Kay was next, I believe.
Can I just say your wisdom and your knowledge, it blows me away every time. So I'm really grateful for that.
We thank Allah.
Definitely thank Allah for even being here. When you mentioned about cell, it made my brain go to all sorts of places where I was just matching up to so many other things. Cell, soul, there's so much correlation to that. On the chat, I did put how there's a relevance definitely there to prison cells. I forgot who it was that was trying to explain that to me. I didn't quite explain it, but can you get in, give some explanation on how it can relate to prison cells?
Sure. Cells preserve energy.
Mm.
Your battery cell in your car preserves the energy of that car. You won't be able to move without it. Cells are a necessary restraint so that your energy does not become depleted. And life is energy. Life is not this. That's just dressing. If I were to magnify this with an electron magnetoscope or microscope, an electron microscope, and I were to put my hand under that microscope, you're not going to see this hand. If it's powerful enough, you'll see craters and valleys and streams just in my fingerprints and my ley lines. These same lines are on the earth. So that's what you're going to see. If I magnify it even greater, it's going to magnify so widely that physical life, physical hand, physical fingers, you won't see them at all. What you see is energy.
And that's why I guess they contain it, because when you have no energy, you have no soul, i.e., you have no life.
Energy needs a container. That's right.
Mm.
Or else it becomes depleted, which is what they do to the majority of people in this world. This world is designed by evil people who wanted to control human life. And it's just a relatively few of them on Earth. They wanted to control human life, so they learned how to contain your energy. And when you get locked up, they put you in a cell. A cell just means exchange. You know, when you sell something at the store, it means it's just a word for exchange. That's all. So be careful who you're exchanging with, especially those of you who are looking for mates and you think your choices are just limited to a guy that's got a head, two arms, two legs, and some genitalia, and that's your choice. That's how you choose guys. Don't do that. Do not do that. It's not fair exchange. When you're exchanging ideas, you want to talk to somebody who can give something back. You're not just there talking. He has no clue or she has no clue what you're talking about because she's not on that level. She's not even trying to be on that level. No, these are cellular exchanges that we're having even outside of this flesh and blood body. The cell is just a prototype for the bigger concept that we're discussing. So I hope that was enough for that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Abdullah C was in there somewhere, I believe. Next.
Yeah,
He's
I understand righteousness, right? So trying to come to grips with people that did get righteous speaks that I know of, like Cain and Martha and Malcolm. Righteous and they had tragic deaths. I don't know about anybody else, too many other people. But I know that there's some out there, a lot out there maybe, that because of what they preach. But there's also how do karma? How do you rate karma? Nature, natural,
Yeah.
neutral? Yeah, how do you rate karma? And karma, and another thing, what do you think about principles? Being principled, first and foremost.
You said principles, right?
Being principled. Yes.
Being principled. Yeah. As an action. I get it.
But you can first get to
Yeah.
the first question.
Yes. Life again is energy, and you can add to that frequency and vibration. Energy, frequency, and vibration. Anything that happens to any one of us in this life is because one or more of those things that constitute life itself in the cosmos has reacted to something that was acting upon them. Life is neutral, my friend. Remember, I always tell you that, right? Life is neutral. Life is not prejudicial. Life is not planning against you to get you. Life is not God trying to punish you for something that you didn't even do yet, but that he knows you're going to do, so he's going to punish you anyway, and you keep the punishment up, and he's just looking to punish. There's some religions that believe like that, that God is just looking. That's the only way he can control humanity. He's got to just look for people, look for individuals who are going to do wrong. They haven't even done anything wrong yet.
Or better than that, predestined.
That's what some people call it, yes. And they have twisted even the words of the Quran to represent that idea when it comes to how males treat females. The idea is that all he has to do is assume that you're going to do something crazy and he can beat you. You don't have to have done anything, but all you have to do, he just got to suspect that you are going outside of the circle of proper behavior. And so that's what NuNetics is designed to do, bring back these proper meanings that they have misread, misinterpreted, and mistold in a way that has actually corrupted the life of the average Muslim. You understand? Yeah. it's corrupted the life of the average Muslim. If anyone has their phone or microphone unmuted, please mute it until you're ready to speak. So karma, in the sense of the Indian concept, and I put Indian in quotation marks because that idea didn't begin in India, but in that sense of every action having an equal and opposite reaction, that's a Newtonian concept. It was born out of the mind of Isaac Newton, but it's not true. Every action does not have an equal and opposite reaction. And I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to leave that there for people to study. If that was true, most of us by now would be a thing just dismissed from this life. We've done so many things in our one lifetime. And you say, I don't know how I'm still living, right? And you had that, people go through drugs and alcohol and smoking cigarettes, hundreds of cigarettes in their lifetime. Why are they still here? Is it because of karma? Is it because truly for every action there's a reaction? No. There's such a thing as Allah's mercy that's operating on the life also. So the best we can do is be conscious of what's wrong in our lives and how to correct it. That's the need for guidance. When we begin to employ what's necessary for preserving the life, that's what taqwa is trying to do, is just trying to preserve the life on all levels, trying to preserve the life of your intellect, preserve the life of your emotionality, preserve the life of your instinctive drives, preserve the life of your family, your neighbors, and that relationship is trying to preserve the life from the beginning to the end, what they might call the alpha to the omega. And it's attempting to give you natural guidance that only Allah could give you, because Allah is the only one who knows the particulars that are taking place in each and every one of our lives. So we can't look at people and say he deserved that. You don't know that, and you don't know what his destiny is. You don't know what the destiny of that baby that died in the fire. You don't know what the destiny is. See, all of that is Allah's charge, not ours. I'm not going to try to guess my way into figuring out why everything that happened to everybody has happened. Why did he get shot? Why did she fall off a bridge? I don't have that kind of control. But I do know one thing, that this entire life is an illusion. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure, of course.
I've heard some scientists make comments in reference to people who and even animals who were shot by hunters and that kind of thing. And these are people who are working in the fields of biology and science and chemistry and all of these things. And they say that they have determined, some of them have determined, that even when you get shot or stabbed, you don't feel it
Yeah.
right away if you didn't see it coming. You saw the woman in
There's a possibility you can
well,
survive it.
not only survive it. Yeah, definitely. If things are done in the interim, in the immediate, to curtail the bad destiny or the outcome. Yeah.
Right. But the
But I'm talking
probability,
about
right.
yeah.
But the probability, if certain organs are hit or you land a certain way, or just
Yeah. Yeah, there are
events
people who
happen, you can
there's certainly people who
make
have
it
lived through
happen.
it. Who's
But reading all
determining that who's determining that probability is the question.
that, uh,
You see what I'm saying? That's
I
all I'm
got you.
saying. I'm not
Yeah,
saying that there's
yeah, the undercurrent.
the undercurrent, the overcurrent,
But
the side current.
yeah, but
All right.
but it's also, we know through science that if you constantly put yourself on a bad diet, if you're eating the bad stuff that you're taking in, right, it's likely you're gonna be doing damage to your body.
That's
Those
the
are
natural
that's
that's
the
the natural
science,
recourse. That's
right?
the natural
So,
recourse. You need to move back a little because you're very blurry. Yeah,
okay,
right there is good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to drown out the noise around me too.
No, we don't hear that. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. But I'm also looking at, you're right, that's the
All right, I
natural.
need you to either ask a question or
Yeah,
finish your comment because I have to
okay,
move on to other people
I
if the
got you.
answer is.
I'm just looking at this something big. Certainly, I go against going back to the principle, being principle in life. Because if you're not principle in life, there's going to be consequences. Just like people who's not being principle about the Quran, not studying to them, they doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But
And
in
and
reality, we're trying to bring the NuNetics in the picture to put it back on the right path,
well,
and so you can put it
we don't have to listen, we don't have to do any of that.
already.
We don't have to do anything for NuNetics
Okay, I'm
that
finished.
nature will not take care of herself. Just like in your body, you have everything you need to be healthy. So we don't have to introduce anything foreign into the body to say this is going to make your body better or anything. All we have to do is learn how to utilize what Allah has already given us as gifts that we just have not awakened in ourselves. We depend on school to make us smart. That's the first mistake. We depend on sex to make us compatible. No, I gotta taste that first, man. I gotta see what that is first before I get with her. We got crazy ideas about what life is because we don't understand energy, frequency, and vibration. It's really that simple. You have to study like a scientist study. When a scientist goes into the laboratory, he's not thinking morally the way they teach us morals are. He's not thinking this is good, this is bad. No, he's thinking this is objective nature. This is objective reality. Let me study it objectively so I won't be prejudiced against anything that I come across in my experiment. That's how we have to learn to be. That's what NuNetics is demanding of us. If you do that, you're putting yourself directly in line with the fitra, and the fitra will teach you after that. All right. Nawa has her hand raised. Thanks for that. Yes, sir.
I should have kind of lost it. I think I lost it. I just wanted
Okay.
to confirm the word from, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. I got it now. Waki, right, is
Mhm.
taqwa comes from waki, but is
Yes.
taki the proto root word, or is that how we look at that, or no?
No, that's a separate word. Taki.
Taki is a
Yeah.
separate word.
But
It means to
both of
protect,
them are,
right?
yes. Yeah. Both of them are from Waki. It's just a different
Taqwa and
form. It's just a
taki
different
are,
form of the word. Yeah.
okay, it's a different form. Okay, let me
Hmm.
take that out.
Yeah. But Waki
Waki.
is uh, the main word.
Waki is the main word. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And that one is to guard or to preserve?
Yeah, they're all related to guarding and preserving,
Okay.
but doing it consciously.
There you go.
Hmm.
So Waki is the conscious regarding.
Yes. Your body is going to
Okay.
protect itself
Okay.
naturally. You know, when you get a cold, that's your body protecting yourself.
Okay.
We don't ask for the cold, but it something needs to be sneezed out or coughed out. And the body knows that. So we call it sickness and illness, but the body calls it just correcting itself.
Okay.
When our eyes water, you know, all of that is protecting ourselves. We stay up too late, our eyes get red and bloodshot and all of that.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Understood. Okay. I just wanted to
Hmm.
make that differentiation and not have it incorrectly in my book of words.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how that goes. But taqwa is when that idea of preservation and protection reaches the level of the intellect and it's choice making. Taqwa was the word that the ancient Arabs used for their horses, actually. They're known in history as horse breeders, the Arabs, the best racers, you know, that kind of thing. So when they would retire their horses, they would remove their horseshoes. And of course, the horseshoes were designed to protect the horse.
Okay.
When they would remove those shoes, then the horse's hooves would become um, what's the word? Vulnerable,
Mhm.
especially if they were no longer being kept on flat land or racetrack kind of situations, and they had to now walk on rocks and pebbles across uneven plain and that kind of thing. So as the horses would do that, they would become very, especially in the older years after they retired the horses, they would become very vulnerable to falls, to missteps and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So every step that a horse took, every step that a horse took, he had to be very cautious
Okay.
because one step could mean his last step. When a horse falls, it's not like when your dog falls. A dog can exist with 3 legs.
Yeah.
A horse, if he can't walk, he's no good for nobody ever again. So
Yeah.
his nature tells him, I need protection. See? So that's the idea of taqwa, that I have to be careful of every step I make in my relationship with my wife, in my relationship with my boss at work. I can't just be talking flippantly, like we're on the same level of. No,
Yeah.
he's running a corporation. I'm running my mouth. That's all I'm running. He's running a
Yeah.
business. He's running a government. I'm running my
Yeah.
mouth. And I think I can just say anything he said.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
No, I have to be cautious. And that caution has to first dawn in the intellect
Yeah.
before being registered anywhere else. If I'm going to make a move, if I'm going to make a choice, I have to factor in now what are the long term consequences for saying this? Because you could say some things to some people and they won't forget for life what you just said. Even though they play it off, everything's all right, man. We cool, we cool. No, you ain't really cool anymore because of what you said,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
That's
Wait,
taqwa.
forgive me. I really don't want to take time. So, just quick recap. Takwa, taki, waki.
Mhm.
Just quick, like, differentiation between the three. That's I'll just. I'm
That'll be a
sorry. I know.
next week's explanation when
Okay.
we
Fine.
start talking about the nature of verbs and adverbs and nouns and what they
Okay.
do in prefixes and infixes and suffixes, because that's a part of that lesson.
Understood. Thanks.
Yeah,
That's it.
they're different iterations. They call them iterations in language. You
Yes.
know,
It
yeah,
makes
just like
sense.
if I say imagination, how many
Yeah.
prefixes and infixes and suffixes are in there? Most of us
Yeah.
don't know because we were just taught the word. We were never taught word construction.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. Who's next?
Muhammad Abdullah is next.
Okay. And some people have written in, I don't know if you can see it, written in some comments. I can't read them from here. But let Muhammad speak first. I'm listening.
Yes, brother instructor, could you visit the term beer and its relationship to the English term beer, which relates to unalive, being unalive? Could you? It's really uh, ironic that righteousness would have that as the negative frequency of that particular word, beer,
So
BIIR
give me the
versus
last
BIE.
sentence again. B.
It's
Yeah.
ironic that the term beer uh, it equates to righteousness in the Arabic terminology.
Yes. Yes.
In the English, BIER relates to death.
It's that I didn't hear. It was moving a little
Death.
bit.
It relates to death. The beer.
Oh,
The
death.
death.
Death. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The
Got
death
you. Okay.
beer. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me.
Okay.
So what is death? Death is a crossing over. Follow me on this.
Yes.
Death for most people, the Native American, whoever, they say he crossed over. The Christians, they say he died and he crossed over. The Muslims say, oh, he went to Jannah. So death is not a cessation of movement. It's not a stopping of your movement. It means you took on a
Right.
different kind of level of existence and you moved over.
Yes.
In Judaism, they call it Hebrew. That's what Hebrew means. It means the crossover, the crossing over. That's done through the language. That's why Hebrew is a language. They know how to do, that's a science in language, how to move you from one position to another position. I hope you understand that. All right. So beer, how is righteousness the moving over from one place to another? Any word that has the B and the R in it in that order means to move from one place or one side and to fill the other side. See, the side you're going to has to be empty. The side that you're leaving has to be emptied in order for you to fill the side you're going to. I hope that's understandable. Look at the word borrow. Why do I want to borrow money from you? Because this pocket is empty, or my pockets are empty. I'm borrowing so I can fill this pocket with some of your money. But your pockets have to become empty of that particular money in order for my pockets to become full of that same money.
Yeah.
Like a bridge, BR, right? You're crossing
Yeah.
from one side. Once I leave that side of the bridge, that side is empty of me.
Yep.
And I'm going to fill out that side of the bridge that I'm on my way to.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the word barakat.
Yes.
They call it blessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to empty my pocket in order to fill your pocket, and that's a barakat to you.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I'm broke. It means that the amount that I had to get rid of it. I had to empty my pockets of it so that I could
Mm-hmm.
fill or fulfill something in your pockets and in your life. So that's any word that has the BR connection.
Okay.
Just name another word. Bring me. I think I'm not sure who has their microphone open. Somebody has their microphone on. All right, just check that. I'm sorry. Now, is that you with your microphone?
Yeah,
open?
I said it wasn't my background. I think it
Oh,
was
I'm sorry.
Mohammed.
Yeah. You will give me an
Break.
answer. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Also,
You want
breast. Sorry.
all of it. All of it is taking from one and giving to
Yeah.
the other. You watch your mother. We can't watch it
Yeah.
now, or yourself.
No, not
But you know,
right.
when you were breastfeeding, you used to switch. You used
Mhm.
to switch breasts.
Yeah.
VR just means emptying and filling, right? And R means movement. So I'm emptying from this side of the bridge to fill that side of the bridge, and I have to move in order to do it. That's what the R is.
Also, breath, inhalation, exhalation.
There you go. It's the same movement. Kay is asking about Britain. These messages, they disappear from my screen. So now you might have to read them to me.
Yeah, I was
But
going to
yeah,
read another
okay, yeah. So go right ahead. But
break
yeah,
on this one.
all of that. Just think about you can make a list of, a matter of fact, every week we should have at least 10 words based on the letters that we've been talking about. We should have those 10 words just ready at the beginning of the class to read off. Breath, break, go to the Quran to get your words. Bir, why is righteousness bir? Look at the ayat 177 of Surah 2, and you'll know.
Yeah.
It's all about the giving. Next question.
Bayna is next. You want me to ask? Okay, I can ask on your behalf. You want to ask it?
Yeah.
In the group, she asked, she said, please explain Jala in creation. She's been waiting actually. I think she asked this last week. Dul Jalali Wali Ikram. I've been waiting for your reply.
Okay.
I remember the question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good question.
my dear Bayina, you have been waiting quite a bit of time for the answer to that, but I need to go do some basic research before I give you an adequate answer. I don't want to just be flippant and say what I'm not sure of. So I would just say to have Nawa or you just remind me. I know you've been doing that also. You've been busy, but as you know, so have I. So, but I promise in the next couple of days I will give you your answer. And inshallah, I'll ask you to share that answer with the class come this time next week. Is that okay with you?
That'll be good. Good presentation opportunity. Okay. I wrote it down. I'll save it, baby.
And in the meantime, study the letters of Gene and especially as William and I have explained them.
Mhm.
And then look for English words like jello.
Makes sense.
Did you hear what I said? Jello.
Jello. Yep. Saved.
Yeah.
So before Amina, just gonna one more comment, Kay, because she's kind of new, so I want to just make sure she gets some of her things out. She thought of, is taqwa related to aqua?
That's a good question. I've taught that for 20 years now. She wouldn't have known it. But to show you that we're on the same frequency. Yes. Yes, because taqwa is a water quality. It does the same thing in your life that clean and pure water does for your body. Yeah. Agua, aqua, all of those mean water. And waqi is related to all of the above. And taqwa and waqi are not the smallest version of those connected letters. Whenever you see wa in a word, W-A, it's connecting you to something that came before it. So when I say waqi, that's not the ultimate proto root. It's connecting you to something. So you have to see how it's being used in the Quran or in the language in order to determine that. Wa is always connecting you to something that came prior to it. Something that you were doing, something that you were supposed to do, something that you did that didn't go quite the way you thought it would go. So you have to continue the conversation. That's what the word wa is used for. If you cut it off there, you'll get an incomplete meaning. If I said, Alladina amanu, wa, and I didn't tell you what the rest of the sentence was, you won't know how to put it together. It won't make sense.
Mhm.
Those who believe or those who have faith and what? Amilu salihat. See? And
Yeah.
do deeds of reconciliation. If that goes with that goes with faith. Because the way faith is being introduced in that ayat, or in those ayats that give you that phrase, Alladina amanu, those who have faith, wa amilu salih. If it didn't give you that second part, you wouldn't know the full meaning of amanu. You'd say, what'd you say in English? Faith. No. Faith is iman. That's it, amanu. Or aman.
Mm.
It's faith is a two-part system. It's faith and good actions. And that's to compare with the Calvinistic, that's a religion, Calvinism, with the Calvinistic concept of faith, which says all you have to do is believe. Doesn't matter what you do outside of that. As long as you say you believe and you believe, that's that you're safe. You're safe, you're saved. No, the Quran say, yeah, you ain't safe. You better do something more than just confess.
Yeah.
You got to reconcile. Do deeds of reconciliation. That's salihat. And that gives you some insight into what salat means also. It's related to the word salihat, although scholars don't recognize that yet. Salih means to be whole. All right. Anyone else? Amina, did you speak already?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
gonna end with Amina and then
Okay.
wrap it up.
Just briefly, so the you were speaking about the red blood cells and the white blood cells,
Mm-hmm.
and the ayah about about shedding the blood. So this brought to my mind, did that ayat speak to possibly the biological aspect of the human being as far as the war on humanity, the war on the cells, i.e. the blood cells versus red blood cells versus white blood cells?
Yes. Yeah. When you find instances of the Quran explaining things that you can find in the world, like bloodshed and war and these other things, it happens in the world as an after effect. When you find pollution in the skies from chemtrails, that's an after effect. It has to first happen inside of you.
Got it. Alhamdulillah.
In places in the world, these big cities, especially where you find the most pollution, if you sat and had a conversation with most of those people, you'll find out that they are internally polluted. And it's the external just responding to the physical. That's what karma really is. It's just the external universe. We're not responding to when there's lightning and thunder and flooding and all these things that scriptures talk about. It's because was the life of the people. It's a metaphysical statement.
And also the immune system plays part in the faith of us, our iman, having that iman, and
that's right,
shield that. Yeah.
Yes. So you want to know which people or what parts of the world are practicing true iman? Just look at the parts of the world that have healthy immune systems. I'm being overly simplified with this.
No, I
but
understand.
there's a connection in what I'm saying.
Thank you. Oh, this is
my pleasure.
Like one of my, associates should say, that's bomb. That's bomb.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Just a side note, there was a shooting in the in Latter-day Saints temple today. I think five people were shot. I think one succumbed in the Mormon temple. Let's keep them in our prayers. Yes.
Yeah, you keep the whole world in your prayers. That's how you stay safe.
Absolutely, surely, absolutely.
In fact, I'm working on putting the finishing touches on my book. Everything you needed to know about Salat, but didn't know to ask. And I'm going to use Amina's word. It's the bomb.
Love it.